Welcome to the Edition Wars podcast, where we take a deep dive into the mechanics and playstyles of all of the editions of our favorite game. We look at what worked, what didn't work, what led to better games, as well as what didn't but kind of did, but then didn't, but then did again, and we're going to talk about it all. In this episode, we are discussing, once again, the Dungeon Master's Guide from First Edition, Dungeons & Dragons, and the reason we are doing this is because this is 12 Days of Edition Wars, day number 2. And I am here with my favorite co-host, Mr. Brandis Stoddard. How are you, sir?
I'm pleased to be the other turtle dove today.
That's right. Oh, the 12 days. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, right.
You know, that partridge in a pear tree was really fun to have all last week.
Yeah. Or yesterday, because we should persuade our listeners that no, they're not going to go for that.
Well, I had to house it for a week before I gave it to you as the gift for the first day of Christmas. You know?
Right. Well, sure.
Because you are my true love.
Oh, it's going a little far, I feel, but all right. But I'm glad you didn't give me, a partridge that wasn't housebroken. That would be rude.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. I mean, and, well, never mind. So, I believe last time we left off right around page 80-something or so, and I think the next major topic that we are going to discuss is the adjustment and division of experience points.
Yep, we're skating right past some stuff we don't want to talk about because it's our show, and we're back to experience points, a topic we've actually discussed before on this show.
We have several times.
Yep, and I mean, man, this is just a reminder, because I've been in conversations about it lately, that experience points have always been super subjective, just in different ways. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of gold that literally gets handed out is subjective, because either the GM places it or the GM decides if the PCs have worked hard enough to find it, right? Mm-hmm. In those old school dungeon crawls that were Gary's style, right? Right. There was a lot of there might be a bag of gold under that loose flagstone or whatever. Well, does the GM give you a hint to notice it? That's subjective. Well, here, a lot of the subjectivity is, have you played your class and alignment well enough? And that gives you a letter rating that gets into how long it's going to take you to train, how much it's going to cost you, and so on.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I was just actually having this conversation yesterday about the idea of how to give experience, and in some of the, quote this person's words, older systems that use gold and all that, and ultimately the end of the conversation was 2 or 3 of the people in the conversation basically saying, you just got to eyeball it and do what you think is right. And that's ultimately how it's always been.
Right.
Despite the rules and despite what's codified, but never has it been so codified as the part on page 86 with the ESFP ratings, which I know you love.
Ooh. We are throwing that word around today. That is heckin' yikes. It's a mess, and it drives me nuts. I don't think there's a lot of useful inspiration to take forward here for literally anything up to and including first edition D&D, AD&D. But I mean, I do think that it's possible for a training montage as part of leveling up that takes place over the course of anywhere from a week to 2 months of in-game time. It's possible for that to be cool, right? It's possible for that to both seed new storylines and provide payoff for choices the players made, right? That could all happen. Like, you could fold in encounters with NPCs and recognition for heroics and all this kind of stuff. But having said that, running one montage per player for a table of 3 to 7 players is stressful, and so I don't blame people not doing it. So I don't have a ton more to offer you on that. I think that the next section of the campaign, where we get back to some Gygaxis essayist, that's some interesting stuff, right? That's actual guidance. That is like him trying to like pass down his philosophy to people who are reading this for maybe the first time. Here's where he's actually trying not to assume too much that you've played original D&D in any of its versions, right? Not past or future.
I agree with that. And then though it is quickly followed by the social class and rank section.
Yep.
Which assumes a highly feudal European setting ethos.
Yep. And certainly that's what they were publishing at the time. I mean,
absolutely.
No question.
I mean, it's Greyhawk, right?
Yep.
In a lot of ways, anyway.
I mean, pretty explicitly, he name checks Greyhawk at the bottom of page 88.
Oh, sure. But I just mean in terms of what they were producing, it's Greyhawk. And it was like that for a long time, but eventually it moved a little bit away from that sort of, it became a little bit different, I guess I should say.
Yep. And we have a really quite classic, if no better, as a result of being classic, defense of masculine as neutral for pronouns.
Yeah.
That's that, my friends, is going to survive quite well all the way into second at least. I don't remember what third does, but second for sure. I remember the sidebar explaining that he, him pronouns are what they're going to use for beings of indeterminate gender.
Yeah. I think in third edition, don't they try to alternate?
I think they do.
They'll do he for one iconic NPC or PC class.
Right.
And then the next one has she. And even in the different chapters, they'll alternate calling the DM a he in one chapter and then a she in another. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think they get a little bit better about that.
And that really highlights how in 5th edition things are in second person absolutely as much as they can manage. Because true gender neutrality is you, which, hey, that's smart.
But the thing is, this section, as much as I think we've talked about this before, but I love this section, but it is highly Gygaxian.
Oh yeah.
And the man had such an influence on the game for so long, and it seeps out of his writing. And I'm saying that in neutrally. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Nothing in here shocks me because, of course, I grew up with this.
Sure, of course.
But the writing is very different, and so for someone who has not experienced the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide in terms of reading it and actually really analyzing it for what it's trying to say about the game and the world and the setting, it's eye-opening in some places.
Sure.
And this is one of them, this social rank section and all that. And then, of course, that hops right over to the duties, excises, fees, tariffs, taxes, tithes, and tolls.
which we talked about in the economy episodes. Yeah. And it's just such bureaucracy punk.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just, totally I sure did give you some money, and now I regret that because you have it. Yeah. I'm thinking, no.
Yeah, and the thing is, as the DM, that was his way.
Clearly,
that was how he did it. And if he was too generous one session and realized it because the players were using the goodies that they got, whether it's gold or something else, in the next couple of sessions, and he realizes, oh crap, those are really powerful. I got to do something to take those away. Well, here it is. You
Yeah.
roll up to town, and the town is having a disaster they're trying to collect tolls for, so they take 90% of everything that you have. You know,
Sure.
that was that was how it was. And in some ways, the funny part about that is, in some ways, that actually defines a setting so much
Yep.
that it made so many slight and great inconsistencies that it actually made Greyhawk very fantastical, despite its setting as a feudal European, you know, setting with knights and castles and all that.
Sure.
So that sort of led to the, added to the fantastical aspect, which is kind of weird to say it that way, but it for sure did. At least in games I played in, it for sure did. Because ultimately, in that type of setting, you're at the whim of the people in power.
Yep.
And if you're at the whim of people in power and they decide that when you're walking up to the gates, you look like you have a lot of money, they can decide to tax you. And that's just how it is.
Yep. Yep.
So, but yeah, so we can skip a lot of that section and not really say much more, because we did talk about it in the extensive economics episodes that we recorded.
The whole thing about squeezing taxes out of players makes me think of when we were running Dust to Dust LARP. We actually got players enthusiastically supporting tax season because we explained in excruciating detail in the culture packet how that whole flow of tax revenue worked. And the whole point was to gather revenue in the form of silver so that the local lord's sword could be silvered so they could fight werewolves and shades. And so
Nice.
the PCs were like, yes, we are into this. We will pay gladly. It's cool.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And
That's
it was
awesome.
great. And because they were PC lords, so they weren't seeing no collective benefit out of it. It was more sort of a fund drive for something they kind of wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And so that wound up really nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Hard to do in most D&D games, but maybe someone will have a cool idea that came from that. But yeah, it continues with a bunch of sort of essays on placing treasure.
Yeah.
It's very dense text.
Because the game was reliant on treasure as part of your experience, it required a lot of words. Because as we said, what it comes down to is do what you feel is the best way. Well, depending on who you are, you have different feelings, and this is Gygax telling you what he thinks about it. So,
yep. And I mean, it continues into territory development by player characters, and then that involves some random rolls that are kind of interesting. Though it has to be said that Frank Menser is going to cover a lot of the same territory in Beckme, and he's going to make it a lot more interesting than this, because some of those supplements stand up really well today, kind of almost perversely. But he had a way of getting straight to what he meant to say.
Right, and let's talk about that
was
actually
nice.
for a second.
Yeah.
I feel like that the reason for that partly is it was meant to teach you how to play the game.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Whereas this book right here that we're talking about is not really meant to teach you how to play the game. It's meant to give you advice and certain rules that you can use if you don't know anything about a particular topic, and so therefore can't make up the rule yourself. It's not really meant to teach you to play the game. Whereas Beckme was designed, at least the red box and the blue, were designed to teach you how to play. And by the time you got to the teal box with the wars and the strongholds and structures, it was teaching you a different way to play. So it was still focused on trying to teach you.
Yeah.
And nothing in this book is about, well, I don't want to say nothing. Most of the things in this particular book that we're talking about right now are not really set up to teach you anything.
Right. It's more trying to inspire than teach in a lot of ways.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
But I think that a totally normal reader could look at two facing pages of dense text in long paragraphs and kind of have their eyes glaze over and find it a bit hard to just extract the useful gameable stuff from that. I think it's a reasonable place to be as a reader. And I kind of want to skip right over the peasants, serfs, and slaves section. It's gross.
Yep.
Because it just assumes PCs in a pro-slavery position, which, oh, no. And, fair to point out that we are not presumably talking about chattel slavery as practiced in the American South. Still gross. Still a terrible look. And just no. So scooting right along, we have a sample dungeon and its first 3 rooms.
And then another essay regarding, what to do with maps and how to adjudicate some of these things. So sort of the opposite of what I was saying a minute ago, which was none of this book was meant to teach you how to play. Well, and now here we have a page and a half where it's kind of teaching you how to play. I still maintain that there are a lot of assumptions that are being made that make it so that so that this isn't. I'm not sure it's as instructive as it could be.
Yeah, like I know that when I got started in D&D, I was trying to teach myself how to run this thing, and I was playing 2nd edition. It didn't teach me how to manage a dungeon and guide the players through it and describe things for them. And we'll cover this again when we get to the 2nd edition DMG, but this is a real effort, if maybe not a sufficient one, to teach the DM how to present a dungeon in their narration. And I just don't know that there's any way to put that on a page in a way that is going to get the job done. Not even, almost 3 pages of dialogue, right? Of screenplay. It's a screenplay. Just a bad one. I don't know that there is any way to do that until you get to the era of the actual play, right? I think that a recorded actual play, whether we're talking streaming or video on demand or podcast or whatever, that is actually able to teach the thing by helping you see what the DM is doing and hear what they're saying in a natural flow. I just don't know there's any script that you could write that would help with that, because at least to me as a reader, this script helps me describe that one dungeon. Right? It doesn't generalize very well because I don't know all of the other thoughts that the GM is having as we go through this of, well, here'd be a cool thing to do. Here would be okay, I need to count down till a thing happens because it's part of the plot of the dungeon, right? It's just as surprising in the script because it's sort of dumbed down. Whereas in an actual play, and maybe it's because I'm a more mature listener now than I was at 12. Fine, that's a fair cop. But it seems much more natural to me to be able to get inside the DM's head and understand what they're trying to do with the things that are happening in the narration.
I mean, I guess for me, and kind of, you're kind of describing what I meant. You're speaking much more eloquently and doing a much better job than what I said. That's exactly what I mean when I say it makes a lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
It doesn't really teach you how to play. On the other hand, though, I mean, I feel like in this episode I'm really bashing this book, and I don't mean to, because on the other hand, this did give you, as you said, this was before the time of actual play recordings or videos. This does give you an idea of, okay, well, if that's how it's really supposed to flow, okay, I can try to make that happen, right? But it doesn't give you a heck of a lot of help if you if you're not able to, if you don't really understand what's going on already.
And to continue my line from the episode prior, it's yesterday, folks. I promise it's yesterday. The sense of like there's a threshold you need to cross. There's a moment of initiation into I can DM now is really set up by this book to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I submit that we have spent the 41 years since its release taking a sledgehammer to that idea, and we haven't gotten very far. If you listen to conversations online about how nervous people are about their first time DMing, well, we still have a lot more work to do to detonate that idea.
Yeah. No, I'm in full agreement there. I'm in full agreement. And this is where, in some ways, actual plays help a great deal, and in some ways, they don't help at all.
I mean, certainly there's the famous Mercer effect.
Right, and that's where I was going. Was if you're a new DM and you look at a Critical Role show, and you think to yourself, "Oh man, this is brilliant! I love it! It's great." Probably, if you have any sort of lack of confidence, or if you have imposter syndrome at all about your own abilities, then your very next thought is probably, "I could never do that.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not capable of that. I couldn't run it that well. I don't have a group that knows each other as well as these people do. I could never deal with all the technical aspects and still run a smooth game like look, Matt Mercer and that whole group, they're amazing.
They are amazing. They still make mistakes.
They make mistakes, but they're what I was going to say was they're amazing, and also they have worked in the entertainment industry in voiceovers and production and acting and all of those things for the majority of most of their careers. I know sometimes they have people on there that aren't. And so there's a certain familiarity that they have already walking into the room, even if they don't do everything perfect and make mistakes. The thing is, if you're a new DM and you're watching it, you don't notice the mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know they're making mistakes.
Well, like what I'm definitely noticing, sorry folks, we're doing a Critical Role tangent. What I'm definitely noticing lately is the different kinds of creative energy that the players are bringing to the table with their personal stories. Like, I guess I'm going through a little bit of a crisis of confidence in my own character creation when I'm on the PC side, right? I've been struggling with that lately, and feeling like I'm actually getting into the character's head and creating someone who's interesting at all. And they're bringing stories with layers. They have characters who are prepared to experience dramatic arcs. None of them seem to be setting out to insist that they're an iconic hero whose ethos doesn't need to change. And that clearly to me comes from their acting background and their experience with improvisation. They know how to imagine characters into existence very quickly. And I think that's great. I think that obviously Matt is doing an enormous amount of work and heavy lifting, but from my perspective, I understand the work that Mercer is doing much better than I understand the work that the players are doing.
That's interesting. I feel like I understand that a little bit, what you're saying. I'm not sure I've ever thought of it in those specific terms. Because here's the thing, right? So, it's possible to have a good story where a character doesn't actually change very much. That doesn't make it great literature, right?
Well, Batman doesn't change in Batman stories, right, outside of the Nolan verse, basically.
But I just mean in terms of, so just any book that you pick up, right? Like, sometimes what makes a great book is the character goes on this journey, and the journey's fantastic. No matter what it is, I'm not even talking fantasy. I'm just saying, like, any story, right? The journey's fantastic, and by the end of the story, the character has learned something fundamental, either about themselves or the world or someone they love or something that's important to them, and it makes them change, right?
Sure, sure.
And that ends up being a very satisfying type of situation. And so those stories often become beloved stories. On the other hand, there are plenty of stories that I love reading over and over again where the main character really does not change. There is really no character development arc.
Oh, for sure, and that's the iconic character. That's very, very common in procedurals.
Right.
Sherlock Holmes does not learn from his mistakes.
See, I was thinking Angela Lansbury.
Like,
right? So
it's detective stories for sure. Like,
yeah,
detective stories and cop stories. Like,
that's right.
that's
Yeah.
they're not there to change. They're there to reestablish order.
But also there, what I'm thinking of is Ready Player One.
Okay.
Okay, love this. I love the book.
Okay.
Apparently, the author's not that great, but I love the book. Partly because I grew up in the exact time that he's writing about in that book. I grew up in the 80s, and
Sure.
so every part. I never saw the movie, but every part of that book is like, oh my god. It's like I'm reading my childhood. Other than the all the electronic stuff that's surrounding the whole story idea.
Sure.
But that main character doesn't really change at all
Sure.
throughout the story. And that's a big critique of that particular book. And I'm okay with that critique. My response to that critique is, yeah, okay, I don't disagree. I still enjoy the story, right?
Sure.
So it doesn't have to have a critical character arc. But the critical role people, they often, I can't even say always because I haven't been watching the latest show, so I can't, but they have an arc. And when those people playing those parts, playing those characters walk in at the very beginning, they know there's going to be an arc. They might not know exactly what it's going to be. They might not know exactly how it's going to come to be, but they're willing to grab onto that arc and ride the whole thing to the other side of the rainbow. And that's the part where when you say, I don't really know what they're doing, or I don't have confidence that I could walk in every day and do that. That's where I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't set out, partly because I've been playing for so long, I don't set out at the beginning with the first level character and imagine all of this whole giant character arc. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I didn't really appreciate third edition's character creation process.
Yeah. Right.
Because you had to look so far ahead
Right.
and kind of see what changes were going to be made so that you could become the character you wanted to be.
Well, right. And prestige classes meant you had to pace out your development,
right. Exactly.
your narrative development in the right way. No, I agree with that. And it isn't that I'm saying I want to have my character's development planned from day one. Mm-hmm. It's just I want to make sure that I've built the right foundation. Right. I've built a foundation with the character so that there are interesting directions to grow, even if I don't know what they are yet.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say is that when the critical role players walk into the room, they might not know exactly where it's going, but they know they're in it for the ride, and they're going to let the character arc, regardless of how that works, right? And I don't know that I'm any good at that as a player.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm bad at it, but I DM so much. I don't play very often. And when I do play, I often find myself at a loss as to where I want the character to go because it's such a shift to go from player to DM to player. But yeah. So having said that, back to the 1E DMG, this write-up, this scripted little piece of play example also doesn't help that either. Right?
Yeah.
But one thing to remember, though, is back in first edition, and this is why I said I have a hard time with that sometimes because I've been playing for a long time, because in first edition, you didn't create a whole thought process of what you wanted your character to be at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because most of your characters died at first level.
Yeah.
Right. So you couldn't invest a lot of energy in imagining what one of, you kind of created your character through play because you had to, because there was no real idea of how long they're going to be alive. And now in fifth edition, it's kind of the same. It's better when you create your character through play. The difference is when you create your character at first level, you have a lot more tools with which to imagine where you might be going in fifth edition than you had in first edition.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, we're way off on a tangent. I enjoy Critical Role. I have not watched the this latest. I don't have the bandwidth and the time to be able to do it. And I would, it would be one thing I would watch
for sure,
and not be able to do anything else while I'm watching.
Well, right. I listened to the podcast just like I listened to the D&D Brief podcast. Mm-hmm, the idea of sitting down and watching a show on a schedule. I'm dimly aware that we used to do that, but I don't remember right. how. And we sure the hell didn't do it for 2 to 4.5 hours right. in a show that started on West Coast time.
Yeah, right.
Get out. No.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, and that's also part of the reason why I'm not. I just don't. It doesn't fit into my schedule very well.
Right. Anyway, the next section is actually super nice follow on.
It's relevant.
Actually. Yeah, it's non-player characters, and of all the sections in here, this one is going to come fairly close to surviving into the 5e DMG. Mm-hmm, because the 5e DMG, which we know you haven't read, it's cool, has a pretty in-depth section of random tables for fleshing out NPCs, especially villains. There's some really nice nested tables on like villainous motives and goals and so on, for like just exploring what does the villain want, how do they go about getting it. Okay, apply that fairly high level statement to your campaign. Go.
Yep.
Right, and I think that's cool stuff. This connected to that. It also strikes me that this could be a lot less like personality features and backgrounds than it is like the traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. It's single word descriptions rather than a sentence of like something the character might say about themselves if they were being excessively honest. But it's the same set of ideas, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty cool. It's a bit weirder when you have a D10 table and you write out all of 2 through 6 as the same or whatever, right? A lot of things are repeated because he's trying to show spectrums.
Average.
Yeah. He's trying to show. He's trying to do a bell curve on a single die, and that obviously doesn't work. But this is what he can do.
Right. Yeah, that is very true. I had forgotten about the ones that have the same thing 4 times in a row.
Right. Yeah. The sanity table, the possessions table. I think it's not super descriptive, but all right, sure, whatever.
And then we get to the. It's funny because we get to this next section with hiring hirelings and non-player characters and all that. And there's a small sort of paragraph in here that is one of those like I'm trying to kind of teach you the way. It's the special roles of the dungeon master.
Yeah.
Right. He talks about even though you're the judge and the jury and all that, you're also engaged. And from game to game, you're going to be playing different roles and you're going to have to make sure that as you adjudicate the actions of these hirelings and henchmen and all that, that you're doing it in a consistent manner so that it doesn't seem subjective, right?
Right.
Or that the person has changed, right? The idea
Right.
is it's the same hireling every time. So it's an interesting little paragraph.
It's a lot of text just to say, be faithful to the character that you establish.
Right. But I mean, if you don't know, see, that it's one of those spots where if you don't really know or understand how to be a DM or what your job is, that's one of those, oh yeah, I have to play those people like they're real people.
Yeah, for sure. And that's frankly a good lesson to starting players too, right? Try to play your character like a person and not like an avatar in a video game world, maybe, right? But he gets into a fairly in-depth example with Kellowan Silvershield, that's just like trying to inspire you by describing the flow of play around this character. And it puts me in mind of some of the articles in Dragon Magazine. I think especially the Dragon Magazine annuals that Gygax contributed. When I was growing up, we're talking the 90s and early 2000s before his passing. In those, he was a superlatively good writer for helping to show in a different way than this DMG ever does why all this stuff is interesting. Because he was talking about the adventure in so much more immediate of a way. And
Right.
I wish he'd been able to get some of that. But in fairness, he was still inventing the whole art form in '79 when this was written.
Yeah.
And so I can't really blame him for needing the 20 years following to
all the subsequent years
to actually internalize what he had done.
Right.
That's actually fair.
Yeah. What's funny about this this example with Kellowan Silvershield, this is a better example of how to play than the scripted thing 3 pages ago.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
So that's funny.
I mean, this reads like a summary of an actual play, which it's actually helpful. And now we're going to change topics again because that's what this book do.
Yeah.
We go through
with no foreshadowing either.
God,
it just sort of oh look, there's large text. It's a new heading. Oh, whole new section. Okay.
Yep. All caps. I guess that's a new section.
That's right.
Good luck, bro.
Yep.
We get monsters and organization. What? Sure. And it amounts to monsters have hierarchies and it affects their engagement. Yep. Sure. Great. That's a very good point. You should do that. That is a perfectly legit approach, and it does help bring the world alive by showing that the NPCs have relationships. Yeah.
Yep.
Use of non-human troops. Yeah, okay. That's.
Yeah.
I mean this is less directly helpful and more kind of maybe a useful procedural tool. Right.
Right. As is much of this entire book.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
This section is.
Then we get construction and siege.
And then there's the conducting the game. Oh, whole new section, conducting the game.
Yep.
And then it's, some rules and guidelines.
Yep. Handling troublesome players.
Yep.
Well, this is going to come up. But he gives the advice that everyone in the Facebook 5e group, the one with 460 million readers or however many it is these days, like the advice that you see reiterated there over and over and over again of, well, first try having a conversation like adults and then kick them out of the group. If they won't have a conversation like an adult with you and modify their behavior. And I guess the main thing I want to say about this section is that what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. A DM needs to be prepared to be on the receiving end of this conversation. as much as a player does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he then goes bad places with every part of it. Strong steps short of expulsion can be an extra random monster die, obviously rolled, the attack of an ethereal mummy. Come on now, don't
Here's the
mess
thing, though.
around, because then you're turning then you have players asking if every encounter is just,
A
did we do
punishment.
something wrong? Are
I
you
know,
punishing me?
I know, but here's the thing, right? I actually think he's showing a great deal of prescience here because he knows more
Hard
about
fought
human nature,
experience, you mean?
right? And he knows from human nature that some DMs will just not be able to kick a person out of the group.
For
So if
sure.
they're misbehaving, if you've talked to them like an adult and they won't change, and if there's peer pressure and that's not working, you punish the player's PC. That's the go-to, and that's the because then you have plausible deniability. Hey man, it's just a game, the dice did it, it's I didn't mean to kill your character, I'm not pissed off at you. You if you're trying to maintain a friendship and you're not good at social skills anyway, right? Or you are, but the other person isn't, right? Like
I,
there's a
I will gently disagree with you that Gygax knew what he was doing there. I I think he might have stumbled into something that has a justification, but I don't think he was in the right place with it.
well, okay, so I suppose using the word prescience implies he understood, yeah, and that's what I was going with. I mean, I'll cede the point there. Perhaps he didn't know. I don't think he was a stupid person, though.
Oh, I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm not.
He was a salesman before he was a salesman as a career before before Dungeons and Dragons. So he had some ability to read people, and a part of me wants to think that this is because he knew that a lot of people won't be able to actually be adults at the table.
Right. Well, and like what I do think he definitely saw what was both his own experience with his friends, who
Mm-hmm.
might be kind of jerks,
Sure.
right? That's fine. And then also watching, maybe by the time this book was released, and maybe not, I'm not looking at their ages,
Mm-hmm.
but watching his friends try to do the same job, then watching his sons try to do the same job
Right.
of running the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think, I really want to believe that, especially watching his sons, would have really opened his eyes to what the job was, because they're some of the people he knows best in the world, and now he's seeing what he's taught them, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
actually able
Mm-hmm.
to see himself
Mm-hmm.
reflected.
Right.
This is me waxing eloquent about fatherhood.
Sure.
Like,
Sure. Yeah.
folks, you get what you get on this show, but that's like that's me projecting
Mm-hmm.
like my own life, with my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old into what it would be like if I were watching them GM a game in a few years, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
And then I mean yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's also part of the impetus for having Frank Mincer compile the basic red box,
It's fair.
you know and because the thing is that the basic editions before that, the Holmes basic edition and the Moldvay Cook, those were really just AD&D but only a few levels, right? Whereas Beckme really was meant to be presented for new players. So, I feel like that's part of that realization of watching his kids and the younger players in his gaming groups try to start to play the game and then to DM, and yeah, they need help.
Yeah,
But also, I think from his wargaming roots and all that, I think he also knew that a lot of the adults would need help too.
definitely,
So,
definitely.
anyway, so we can move on from there. But lest anybody be confused, there is a fun little hilarious comic at the bottom of page 111 that is a wizard and a thief and a tavern master or some fighter or something and a I don't know, monk or cleric or something. Anyway, they're sitting there reading a book, and the caption says, "Oh, it's a great new fantasy role-playing game. We pretend we're workers and students in an industrialized and technological society." So, papers and paychecks and uh, cubicles and humans and housewives or whatever all those those fake oh, it's D&D, but it's as if we're them and we're playing a game about us. That joke goes all the way back.
Oh boy, does it. I actually can't begin to guess how many times I have now seen a variation on this joke. And I'd bet that at least 2 times in 3, the person making the joke either hasn't seen this one or has forgotten they've seen this one.
Yeah, right.
And that's fine.
Yeah, sure. Oh no, I'm not lambasting anybody. I just think it's hilarious that it keeps it's such a resonating theme, right? That it keeps getting redone over and over and over again. Because yeah, I've seen it 50 times.
Right. I mean, be careful, you who look into Dungeon Master's guides. For the Dungeon Master's guide also looks into you.
That's right.
That's Nietzsche, the GM. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't recommend that. Not ever.
That's Nietzsche's and nihilism. It's fun.
On the plus side, you might get to play Superman.
Yeah, on the downside, your parents have to die.
In fairness, that was going to happen. You're in a role-playing game.
True. Yes, that's true. So the ongoing campaign is the next major section here. And this is where you get all of your advice on how to create characters and transfer them or convert them into Boot Hill characters. Boot Hill was the recently at this time released RPG about gunslingers in the Wild West, and also Gamma World, which was the RPG about the post-apocalyptic gamma-radiated world.
Yep. This is actually just the advertisement section in the middle of the book.
Yeah, no kidding.
So there's one section that we skated over that I actually really want to go back to. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be that guy.
Oh, is this the intervention by deities?
No, actually, it's the multiple characters for a single player.
Well, you mentioned it, but then we didn't talk about it.
Okay.
Or maybe I read it.
Okay, because this is a thing that's super important for how I'm running my campaign right now.
Okay.
Not the pandemic times online game, right? But the campaign I've been running since 2012. It's really interesting to see.
This is your game that is quite a bit like a West Marches game, right? Where the players come in, you don't know who's going to be there every time.
Right. It's interesting to see that whether you would call it a West Marches style or a troop style play, because in a lot of ways this is presaging the thing that Ars Magica is going to do so famously with like here's your main character and you've got some lower level characters that you might play at the right time, and he's recognizing that it's actually not the most interesting if your main character and your secondary characters are closely tied to each other. The innovation of troop style play is going to be to say your secondary characters are actively closely bound to someone else's primary character, right? But what Gygax was doing was very West Marches friendly, except that it was more purely dungeon focused. So what if West Marches, but mainly in the dungeon, where he does have this like revolving door of players and doesn't know who's going to be there on any given night. But that also means he has people advancing at wildly different rates.
Right. Which honestly was a staple of early D&D.
And he also is the line about money and or valuable items cannot be freely interchanged. And that just takes me right to MMOs. Like That's called having a twink, folks. Like,
Yeah.
whatever else that term may be used for, in MMOs it means a low-level character that you throw a bunch of money at. And it just, like, it's just funny how many things in gaming he's seeing some of the seeds of, and people have been solving these problems or deciding they aren't problems that need to be solved. They document them into being features over the years, right?
Well, and what's amazing is this was, 79?
Yep.
81. I can't remember when it was actually released. I think 78 was the PHB, or 78 was the Monster Manual, 79 was the PHB, and 79 maybe later was the DMG, or maybe 80. I can't remember.
I think the Player's Handbook is actually 77.
So I'm a year off. Yeah.
I think we found out that it was
the Monster Manual
2 whole years from the Player's Handbook until there was a damn combat chart.
Right, that's right. That was what we ended our last episode on. That's right. Well, the thing is, like, the Monster Manual came first, so there was several months to a year where you just had a bunch of monsters.
Yeah.
No players, just monsters.
What do you even do?
But yeah, so
okay, moving back forward.
Yes, forward, onward.
Yep. I mean, the next major header is, as you know, Sam, just going to be my favorite thing in the damn book. Magical research.
Yeah.
Yes. This is my deal, folks. I am so here. And I think we may very well have covered this before, but if we haven't, listen to me talk about players' option spells in Magic, where it's basically the same.
Yeah, but you know why we did is because when we did economies,
right?
It's related to economies because of the cost associated with it.
Like it's a way to spend an extraordinary amount of money, but also if you're playing the Magic user, like how else are you going to get new spells? There's none of this automatic spell learning on level up. You pansies! In my day.
Well, and also, at this time, it was entirely possible for a player to create a spell from whole cloth. And then the DM had to figure out, okay, for your character to actually create that magical spell in the game, here's what it's going to cost you, here's what you're going to have to do, here's how much research time it's going to take, and all of that stuff, just to create, it in other words, it used to be the case that there weren't that many spells, and so if you're sitting at the table and you're a wizard and you think, oh man, I really want to create a spell that would do this because it would have really solved that problem we had in the last session, then you have a conversation with your DM, and either you or the DM or both of you sit down and figure out, okay, what would be the mechanics of this spell? How's it going to work? How long is it going to last? What's it going to take to cast it? How much research am I going to have to do to actually create that? And that's why these rules are in the book. All those spells like that have someone's name attached, right? Those generally, Tensor's floating disk isn't just some random word. Tensor was a PC who created that spell, right? And so like that's part of what this is for. This is actually a staple of the early game because everybody was creating stuff.
For sure.
So
for sure.
Yeah, so I understand why you love this section.
Absolutely, I do. I'm very into that experience of, let's not beat around the bush. This is how you get some more Ars Magica in your D&D.
Right.
Yeah.
Because somebody can't get Ars Magica in their actual game?
Well, I mean, some of the ideas had to come from somewhere. But also, if you're having trouble scheduling Ars Magica, like me, then yes.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, anything else you want to say about magic research?
No, I'm good. I mean, I do like the fabrication of magic items. Yeah. I like that it's here. We talked about before the fact that there isn't actually a good crafting system for tabletop, and there's a bunch of reasons for that.
Right.
But it isn't here either, because some percentile rolls and some money in the vending machine just isn't it, and going on a quest to make a potion is sure the hell not it. I don't know. It's tough. I'm gonna figure it out one of these days, though. Mark my words. Mark my words, Sam Dillon.
Okay, I'm marking.
All right.
I'm marking it right now. And one thing I do like is the suggested special ingredients for potions. This is the kind of stuff I like.
Sure.
Because this is where you say, okay, look, to make a filter of persuasiveness, you need harpy's tongues or devil's tongue.
Sure.
Rumor says there's a harpy nest up in that ridge over there, about 5 miles away, and it's possible that you could go get a harpy's tongue if you're careful about it. And so that, to me, is quest fodder, right? So I like this kind of information.
Sure. You just get into, well, how many layers deep of quest do we need to get for one potion? Well, are we better off questing for a completed version of the potion, or the thing that would give us permission to make the potion?
Right. Well, so the thing is, like, you do this thing once, right?
Yeah.
And then later on, what happens is you use this as a guide for when they need to create something to solve the problem they're actually dealing with in the campaign. Now we're talking. Now it's like, well, you can't quest for the completed potion because it doesn't exist. So you have to go figure out what ingredients you might need, and then get somebody to go back a page or two and look at this research. Right. And do that. Right. Like, that's where there's a synergy here that one of the reasons I like it is it's so optional. It might not work in a campaign at all. It might be something that can be built around and fit in very well. I mean, it really just depends, but having that kind of information, it's the same thing I said about the gems earlier, I think in the last episode yesterday, right, was about when they talk about, what gems are used to power what kind of magical effect, or what gems have, a history of being used for, or being very valuable or whatever. Like, those sorts of things are really great for creating lore, and creating lore makes a world feel real. So that's the kind of thing I like. That's fair.
That's fair. I can see that working.
And then, but I had to tell you, then there's this weird section here that's basically a recipe. It looks like a recipe for cursed pumpkin pie.
Accurate, yeah.
Yeah, so an ounce of giant squid sepia, a basilisk eye, 3 cockatrice feathers, a scruple of venom from a medusa snake, a large peridot powdered, a medium topaz also powdered, 2 drams of holy water, and 6 pumpkin seeds. Yum.
Without at least an adder's fork, I'm not sure I can approve this. A blindworm sting would help it a bit.
To each their own, my friend.
And
to each their own.
maybe some drummers drumming. Just toss those guys in.
And the 5 golden rings.
Harvest the pumpkin in the dark of the moon. Sure. Dry the seeds over a slow fire of sandal.
Yeah.
Good gracious.
This is like, oh, you're a hag? Okay, here's what you put in your cauldron.
Yeah. This is fine.
But, I mean, it's the kind of thing where, see, this is why I say this book isn't really instructive. It's not meant to be an instructive because I hope, I mean, look, some people find this interesting, right? This kind of recipe style, let me create this item. But the majority of players are going to be not okay with that being the focus of what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
But here it is in the middle of this book, like, as an example of something that could be done in the game or for a campaign during prep or whatever. It's that it's sort of the epitome of this book, right? Like, that summarizes everything about this book. It is a mishmash grab bag of advice and rules and tables and examples and none of it really tells you how to play. You just mix it up and put it in a soup and throw in 6 pumpkin seeds.
Well,
And
so what's funny about this to me is that like the list of ingredients is one thing, but once you get into the process, it makes me realize, oh right, like I've totally just done this in a LARP that I ran, right? So
right.
so in Wildland South, you had like crafting formulas for all the stuff you might want to craft, and the economy of that game is a whole other story. But what I don't know that players ever like worked out is that the crafting formula had like you could just go to a juncture and you pay your money and maybe you defray costs with some component tags, and you get your stuff. You get the produced stuff that you can use in the course of play, right? But the crafting formula also had this whole process on it, which you could do, and if you did it there in front of the marshal, you get a bunch of extra stuff for free. I don't know that anybody ever found that out because it was all this rigmarole they didn't want to do. But
Yeah.
that was really inspiring to me, and so that was like as a way to pack in world lore. So if you can really drill down into that, into both the ingredients and the process to say something about the world, which is what you're talking about with the harpies and coming back to it later, now you're getting somewhere in my book, right? It's hard for me to look at that list of ingredients and see what it's trying to say about world lore. Like those are creatures that exist is not an interesting statement to me anymore. I've been playing D&D since 1993. I know those creatures exist. Like you've got to go a little farther. If it were a scale from this named basilisk, now we're somewhere for me, right? And we've spent way more time on this than it deserves, but that's me thinking about this at length.
But that's I mean, well, look, let's be honest, that's what these episodes are about. I mean, we've actually covered the first edition DMG in quite extensive amounts in other episodes, but I think it's really instructive to talk about this as, I kind of feel like I'm downgrading it, as this sort of mishmash. Let me throw in a tip here and a trick there and a table here and some advice over there. And here you go. But the fact of the matter is that, this is exactly what happens is you and I look at this and go, yeah, although Harpy exists, so that's not interesting. However, like you said, that named basilisk, okay, that's the one I have to get its eye. Okay, they already took its left eye because they tried this recipe the first time, but it fizzled. And now I got to go back and get its right eye.
That guy's going to be so mad.
Yeah, I mean, so like, what do? Keep it as a pet afterwards? Cause now it has no eyes. I don't know, I'm joking, but you get my idea though, right? Like that's exactly what happens to build lore. And the thing is, he doesn't say it in here. He doesn't say, you're going to use these tables to build lore. He just says, oh, here's some fun facts, right? Oh, and here's a way that you might make a potion recipe.
Right.
And here's how you would do some spell research. And he never quite gets to the point where he says, okay, now those 3 things, they're going to get boring if that's all you do. So what you do instead is make that part of the lore.
Yep.
So anyway, okay, well, we can move on.
I'm confident you can cut that into something that people can listen to.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll do something.
Mostly cut my parts. It'll be fine.
No, I mean, the thing is, like, it really is true. Like this book is such a grab bag that you end up looking at certain pieces, and if I asked 10 people who had the first edition DMG and read it, and I asked them what the most important passage or what the passage they remember the best or the one that they read the most, other than the attack tables, right? The attack matrices not count.
Yep.
But other than that, what's the most important part? I would get 10 different answers.
For sure.
So, that's a feature and a bug of this book, right?
Yeah, we're about to go through a real grab bag of different topics again.
Yeah.
Non-standard magic items, use of magic items, potion miscibility table. I genuinely did not expect this to show up in 5th ed, but man, that nostalgia vote has
Yeah.
power.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
And we certainly didn't play with it in 2nd ed, even though it was there in the book, because I just couldn't imagine that being fun for my players. Like, that wasn't where we were at the time.
Right.
Now I would say I definitely have some players who would love it and some players who would not speak to me for a while.
So the thing about this in 1st edition was, you'd have to have your character taste the potion
Yep.
to figure out what it was, and then you're really only making a guess, right? And then so if you're in a pinch and you're going to die anyway, so you might as well drink those potions. Well, we got to know what effect they have.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why this is such an integral part, is such a necessary part. 5th edition doesn't really work the same way. So yeah, it's kind of weird to see it in 5th edition, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like you said, the nostalgia vote is very strong.
And then things just get real weird the next couple of pages as we get into treasure, and it's tables on tables and tables.
Right.
I'm confident I can make that sound interesting in a podcast for sure. Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary to try, so I'm okay with that. But it's your typical, then there's the explanations and descriptions of typical magic items, right?
Yep.
Tells you the difference between clairaudience and clairvoyance, diminution, delusion, water breathing, right? Blah blah blah. So this is stuff that was necessary. Because,
there, like, an enormous chapter of magic items in the DMG is a time-honored tradition, and I support it. It's just all of this stuff has already been adapted into your 2nd edition game, your 3rd edition game, your 4th edition game, and your 5th edition game. That's just the work. In 4th ed, it was stored in the player's handbook. That was weird.
Yes. And then there were 3 other books that were player-facing.
Yeah.
That had magic items.
For sure.
I mean, there were lots of other books that had magic items, but there were 3 specific player-facing books of magic items that were also produced.
But we should do artifacts, because the format of this is so weird.
Oh yeah, the 2 times 1, yeah.
Yeah. So folks, the thing that's weird here that I kind of love is that there are blanks in the book where the game seems to expect you to write in what the traits of the item are. So if you've written in the book, maybe in your next campaign you come back and erase it, or maybe you don't, and that's just a legacy item now for all of your future campaigns. Like, as an approach to legacy content, that's actually kind of beautiful, because it's telling you to write in the book. And like, I don't know about you, but I was not the person who would do that.
No,
I'm still not.
You know what? I am. And you know why? Because a book collector actually told me that, this probably doesn't apply to RPGs, but a collectible book that has notes in the margins and comments in the margins that someone has lovingly written, not like, Kilroy was here, but like actual comments about the topic of the book, whatever it is, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Those types of books for a collector are actually worth a lot of money.
That's a fair point.
Because you get the thought pattern of that person as well. It's almost like an annotated copy, except it's not annotated by the author, it's annotated by the reader, which is fascinating from a historic perspective.
I mean, I was stopping at getting a bunch of my stuff signed, right?
Yeah.
So I'd get someone who created it, typically Dan, to sign the front papers, but
Right.
that's a great idea. Now just start printing books with space for marginalia, because
Right.
of course I want to be a monk who draws small animals doing lewd things in the margins. Obviously, people,
Right.
come on, look at me.
Of course. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I do. No, you make a really good point, right?
Yeah. But I was one of those people, though. I have pristine books, right? Even the ones I'm reading, I'm trying not to bend the spine too much
for
and
sure,
yada, yada, yada.
for sure.
And then when he told me that, I was like, I never, ever thought about it that way.
Well,
and
someday when we're famous, dude. Someday when we're famous.
Well, it kind of shifted my perspective on books, and I started thinking about not about writing in them, but just about keeping it pristine. What's that doing for me? Nothing. Like, I should be using them with abandon, right?
Sure.
Like, just using them and letting them get scuffed up and opened and fold a page and, not damaged and ripped and stuff, but just like regular use wear is not a bad thing.
Right.
I used to be real anal when I was younger.
I mean, in fairness, I have 2 different copies of the Player's Handbook that we had to totally rebind, so I guess I can write whatever I want in them.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, that whole approach to artifacts, where like the game doesn't tell you what they do, it instead tells you how many different things they do, and then you go look at the frankly quite enormous tables of different things they might do and go from there.
Yeah, and you can choose.
Yeah. Well,
or you can roll.
And pointedly, also the names become much more distant from any implication of effect, right?
Right.
Like the Orb of the Eternal Grand Dragon, aside from a name that makes me wince in Southern, does actually have a definite effect, and then a pile of blanks for effects, right? But something like the Ring of Gax, you can't look at that name and know what it does.
Right. Well, here's the interesting thing. Look at the Rod of 7 Parts, right? So
Yep.
We get a little bit of history. We get the little bit of the functions, and then the assembly powers and effects, and what happens when you get the. And I don't think most people realize that you could choose, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this really horrific one, this absolutely horrific one, the Teeth of Nalvernar. So,
yep.
There's an entry for each tooth. So there's 32 entries. So a human with heterodont dentition without wisdom teeth has 32 teeth. And then it gives different options for sets and cumulative effects. I mean,
that's actually awesome.
It's totally awesome and horrifying.
And horrible. Yeah.
Totally horrifying.
Like, I would really want to also give out the skull of Dalvernar right, as a holding device, right? Like, that's actually cool.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah.
But like, I love set items because I've played a video game ever, and set items and set bonuses are cool. They're just hard to do in 5e for kind of obvious reasons.
Look, I love the idea. I'm just saying it's absolutely
it's gross. Yeah.
Its teeth. Okay, it's just no. Anyway, so then there's several pages of different effects, different side effects. It's all numbers and letters, so that you're actually rolling on the correct table for the correct item, and yada yada yada.
So I have actually played in a Planescape game where the Hexblade in the party stole and absorbed the Sword of Cass. I feel that the world needs to know that was amazing.
I bet it was.
That was the same adventure in which we had to steal the jar holding the hand of Vecna. We needed the jar.
Oh, jeez.
There's just one bad problem. It still has the hand inside.
Oh.
So.
Yes.
Nuts. That was wild. Anyway.
And that actually brings us to the end Well, okay, so not the end, but I pointed out at the end of the last episode that, we were kind of halfway through because we were on page around 80. And really, this book ends at page 168 because on 169 is the first of the appendices.
Right.
And then there are, 20 or so, 40, how many? There's 240 pages. So there's
70 pages of appendices.
70 pages of appendices. But the thing is that it's very, Appendix A is a random dungeon generator. So it gives you some geomorphs and then a crap ton of tables to roll on.
Indices. Appendix N is famous, right?
Right.
Such that the words Appendix N get used to mean what happens here.
Right. Appendix A, when I was young, I spent hours just rolling up random dungeons.
Yep. I think my wife did too. I think this is something she enjoyed doing, was rolling up random dungeons. Yeah. And I can see enjoying that, especially if you built up the rules a little bit more to lean into you have to play against a deck of monsters that are going to give you trouble. But I'm a huge fan of deck-driven AIs for monsters.
Yeah. The thing is that the reason I liked it is because it's sort of like, that thing where if you have a decision to make and you could do one of two things and you feel like they're both equal and you don't really, you're just like, I don't know either one. I don't know which one to choose. And so somebody says, flip a coin, right? And you flip a coin. It's not that the coin is going to tell you which one to do. It's that you're going to realize when it tells you whatever it comes up as, if you wanted to actually do that one or not, right? And so that's kind of what these tables are, and creating those smallish random dungeons helped me learn what aspects of dungeons I like and don't like, what aspects are interesting and what aspects get boring after a little bit, and that sort of thing.
Nice.
So it was more of a sort of design exercise for me, only because it was a formative time for me.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's an awesome point, though. Yeah. Forcing you to think about your emotional reaction to the random result and to help you figure out your actual tastes. That's a super good point.
And that also applies to the random wilderness terrain details.
Yep. And the rest of this book was not short on tables, but the table is about to get real. It is a lot. And we're going to get into random encounter tables, a bunch of them. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's the same kind of stuff that's going to be appendices in every future DMG, so I don't see why this should be left out of the act.
Iconic picture of a satyr on page 187.
Sam and Brandis describe artwork.
A great one of the iconic images from first edition is 193. The Miracle, the Chaotic by David A. Trampier is the DCC RPG guys, Goodman Games. They put out a module called "A Miracle Was Framed."
Amazing.
And it's an homage to this cover. This art, the cover art for that product is an homage to this one. DCC RPG actually has a lot of homages to AD&D art.
Well, sure. Yeah. It was so formative for so much of their user base.
Yeah. Yep. And then I'm on Appendix D, random generation of creatures from the lower planes, and then Appendix E, recapitulation of monsters alphabetically with XP values.
God. Yeah.
Because the thing is that the monster manual did not have XP values, for those of you that don't know this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You had to go to a table in the DMG to calculate based on the hit dice of the creature and the special abilities of it.
What an actual war crime.
Yeah. So having this table in the back of the DMG with actual experience points is a winner.
But yeah, this is a bunch of pages of monsters. I'm looking at Appendix F, gambling, and feeling very attacked right now.
Oh, I'm not there yet. Oh,
It's
here
okay.
we go. Oh, look at that. Wow. Yeah.
Uh,
um,
and the reason I say I'm feeling attacked is that we absolutely did our own variation on this in Seas of Adari. Because,
yeah.
like, do you actually have a swashbuckling game without gambling? I put to you that you might not. And Sean certainly thought you did not, in fact, have a swashbuckling game without some gambling going on.
Well, I submit you should not have a swashbuckling game without a game.
I'm shocked to find gambling going on here.
Yes. And then Appendix G is just one table of traps, and then it moves quickly onto Appendix H.
How is that enough information? Come on.
I don't know.
Everything else you go into detail, but traps.
Right.
You're just going to skate on me, huh? Sure. Yeah. Gary.
I mean, it's probably just a republication or reprint of the tables in the Appendix A.
Fair.
So, and then furnishings tables, dungeon dressing, which actually is another one of those with that, that formative, it has an unexplained sounds and weird noises table.
Yep.
It has an odors table. It has a magic user's furnishings, miscellaneous utensils and personal items. I mean, these things can be used for, like, what's in a room, what's in its pockets.
Yeah. Well, we can't say enough good about some of these for just, this is the first time a lot of people saw some of these words. Mm-hmm. I would bet that north of 50% of all readers had not seen the word alembic before they saw it in the magic user furnishings section.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, yeah. No, totally. Oh, yeah. There's a ton in here. I mean, look, oubliette.
I mean, once you get into herbs, spices, and medicinal vegetables, like, it shifted from being a DMG to being a commonplace book, and that's amazing. That is bananas, but that is amazing. Yeah. Describing magical substances, that is literally just a vocabulary section. Yeah. That's kind of incredible. But
right, but remember, though, you couldn't just Google, and you didn't have a phone in your pocket that would tell you.
You're losing me here. I don't understand.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, where did you keep Wikipedia?
This was it. This is your Wikipedia. But yeah, so and then we get to Appendix N, which you mentioned before.
I mean, you could probably just load up Encyclopedia Britannica on the CD-ROM, though, right?
Yeah, back then, if you got in your time machine first.
So sorry, I interrupted you a bunch there. Like,
no. I was just saying, and then we get to Appendix N, which you mentioned before, regarding the list of inspirational readings. And then it's quickly followed by an encumbrance table, which we will not talk about. And then Appendix P, creating a party on the spur of the moment. And it literally lets you, roll up basically what amounts to pre-gens for any adventure that you want to run.
That's great. That's amazing.
It's 2.5 pages.
I'm going to put forth the opinion that the 5e DMG not having this is just a mistake. Like, not necessarily this approach. I'm not saying percentile rolls, but character sheets or at least stat summaries for maybe 5 to 6 pre-gen characters. You should actually have that. That's a really good idea.
Well, that's like the one of the most helpful sections I maintain. One of the most helpful sections of any of the 5th edition books is in the back of the monster manual, where they have the little NPC section.
Oh, yeah.
And they have stat blocks for generic NPCs.
Oh, yeah.
Those are, and then in the back of Volo's, there are some as well. And then I think Morton Canaan's has it as well.
Yep.
Like, there's just a few. And each subsequent book that they produce has a different sort of variation of CR numbers for those creatures. But, I mean, it's fantastic. That's exactly what I need when I'm creating on the fly.
For sure.
And so that kind of goes along with this, right? Like, that's kind of what this is.
Right. So. This at least is sort of player adjacent, even more than those are. But
Sure.
those NPC sections you're talking about, like, I run a largely urban game. I use those sections probably 8 to 9 times more than the whole rest of the monster manuals put together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My games end up being very social, so it's often, who are they talking to, and that person is usually a humanoid, and so there you go. I need those stat blocks.
So the one last really good laugh I get out of this book is the glossary, where I'm going to assume that Gary wasn't conscious of himself doing this, but instead his editor, who's the editor on this?
Mike Carr wrote the forward, so
he's listed as rules editor, so we'll assume it's Mike Carr. I'm going to assume that Mike Carr, or someone who is, for these purposes, Mike Carr, recognized that Gary's writing style involved a lot of language and kind of markup abbreviations that were not going to be common knowledge to his target audience. So the glossary explains what CF means. The glossary explains what QED means.
Yep.
The glossary explains nota bene. Like,
right. Except here's the thing, though. It doesn't really explain it. It just tells you the translation.
Sure, yes.
It doesn't say nota bene. It says note well.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually give you, and it doesn't give you an idea of why does QED mean which was to be demonstrated. Like, it doesn't tell you that.
Well, and
so you have to go farther if you want to know.
And its definition for Quo Vadis is especially opaque.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Oh man. Whew. Yeah. But funny though. I mean, but it's true that this was enough at the time,
right,
for a lot of people.
Right. And you need to explain what psionics is. Like, of course you did. Right.
Right.
I can't remember not knowing that now, but obviously at some point I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
That brings us to the functional end of this book, aside from some ads and indices and more ads. And also there's some more tables, because why would there not be another set of tables after the last ad in the book? Sure.
Yeah. This is just the same tables from the non-player character section, the hireling section, and it's just the reprint, so you've got them right at hand. So that brings us to the end of the first edition DMG. So, I feel like we took a much lighter analysis of it with this couple of episodes than we have in the past, because in the past we've had a specific topic we've wanted to cover, XP and AC and 2-hit and economics, all of those series of episodes. The DMG from first edition was heavily discussed. So if there's something in here that we didn't say, and you're hitting your steering wheel because you're driving while you're listening to this and we didn't mention something, try to go back and look at one of those sections or one of those other episodes, and we go in much more detail there. Do you want to summarize your thoughts about the first edition DMG before we head out?
Well, so I've covered a lot of what I want to say as we've gone along. I guess the main thing that I see here is that this is laying the foundation for the conversations we're still having 41 years later about how the game is played. What we say has changed, but what we're talking about in a lot of cases hasn't. We've solved problems. We've created new, more refined problems. We've reverted to these problems in some cases. I think I might hold this up as the most foundational text that has ever been written about the topic of Dungeons and Dragons, period. Right? Because there's so much more here than in any text that came before it about how to run the game and what the game should look and feel like, right? Because as you said, there wasn't anything like this for OD&D before this. And I do still think that like getting through this book and extracting meaning from it is, consciously or not, an initiatory experience. It is hard. It's not friendly at all. It is so badly organized that what you're going to do is open to any section, see something you've never seen before, and then skim around and see some other stuff you've never seen before. And that is intended to be absorbed in some way, but at the same time, books released within the past, 5 years are in many cases just as dense and impossible to absorb. I'm looking at you, game name obscured by static in the recording. You know what you did.
Well, I would posit that even the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide is difficult to read and doesn't actually teach you as much about playing the game as seasoned veteran DMs think it does.
I think that's a fair cop.
And I think that part of the reason why there's we often say, oh, we know nobody reads it, well, guess what? There's a reason why. It's a giant textbook.
Yeah.
And it's meant as a reference, but textbooks only work as a reference when you have knowledge already, and so you only need to reference that knowledge.
Right.
So you have to read it at least once.
Right. And the question that ultimately we're going to be left with throughout this entire 12 days of Edition Wars is, what would it look like for a Dungeon Master's reference to really invite you in? How would you do that in text? That's the unsolved problem.
Yeah.
There are very smart people in both the mainstream tabletop gaming and indie gaming space who have dedicated vast amounts of time to helping to bring people into the conversation of games. And if you weren't there having that conversation with them in person, it's no better than this book right here. Mm-hmm. And I feel super bad about telling them that in the medium of this podcast, but it's the honest truth. There are assumed definitions of words, assumed connections between ideas that have no way to make it onto the page. It's an unsolved problem. Not to say unaddressed, but it's not solved. In the now 46 years since this hobby got off the ground, I mean, something like Robin's Laws of Good Game Mastering. Robin D. Laws is an excellent, excellent writer. I've been praising his work in Twitter lately in specific, but he sets out to explain something super narrow, and I don't know that it is enough better of a text to capture all the things that this book is trying to do, right? I don't know. Maybe that's unfair, and I should go back to reread my copy. But
I don't know if it's unfair. I feel like the issue is that there's a reason I call it a textbook, right? And look, honestly, the 5th edition Player's Handbook is a textbook as well, and so is the Monster Manual. Although the Monster Manual is much more like a Wikipedia type of textbook rather than a whole body of knowledge. And so the thing is, okay, as a college professor, here's the thing. I don't just hand my students a textbook and say, okay, read this. Now watch a couple of videos. Okay, now go do it, right? I have to lead them through, teach them how to read the text in the first place, right? Here's how to organize the information in your brain. Here's how to catch the clues in the text that tell you this item is important to pay attention to. Here's how to know when you should stop and summarize, right? And then now that you've done all that, okay, now rewrite that whole amount of information again in your own words in a manner that you can understand it, that still stays true to what that item is. Okay, now work with that material, right? So imagine if we had a Dungeon Master's Guide that said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach you how to play the game. We're going to start with the very basics, and then I'm going to give you lessons that walk you through and then make you do. See, that's the part that's missing, is the make you do it part, right? I don't just talk at my students for a semester and then give them one test in the end and make them do it one time and then they're done. They have to practice and generate skills all throughout the semester. So that's what it would take for a Dungeon Master's Guide to really be a text that is meant to teach a game. And that's not what, I'll say it now, that's not what any of the Dungeon Master's Guides are. They are textbooks, but they are not set up with a person that is there allowing the game to be taught through those textbooks and then forcing or teaching that person how to utilize those skills. That's what would be required.
Yeah.
And so my answer to you is what is the DMG, that what would a DMG have to be? It would have to be a starter box, a starter kit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though the 5th edition starter set is a great starter set and it's a very good adventure and it's really well written, I'm not sure it does what I'm saying it should do either.
So okay. Looking at this DMG, and maybe this is a question we can also be thinking about as we go through all these DMGs. What is the right experience level of DM to see the best improvement in ability from this book? If you're already a very good GM, does this help you step across into some presumably quite rare state of a great GM? Does this help you get from, well, I've run a few games, I know what all these clicky math rocks do, but let's deepen this into, okay, now I really know my way around, and I can start improvising with confidence. Like, what is the precise target user of any particular DMG, and what does it give them? Because if this isn't targeting the day one newbie, who is it targeting?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, but that actually begs the question, though. So who is the target, right? Like, that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Who is the target?
Yeah.
So the answer is not new people.
Yeah.
Right. So then that means that the analysis that I just gave you 2 minutes ago is a false one, because I was giving that analysis from the standpoint of thinking the book is meant to be an instructional manual for new DMs, and it's not, right? So if it's not, then there's a different metric we need to be measuring the DMG by.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the answers to this stuff. I think that in Gygax's mind, maybe he was trying to talk to mainly people who had been running OD&D for, let's call it 2 or 3 years of fairly regular sessions. Because he's not saying you have to have been on the bus with him since 74, God help you, 72, when he started writing it, right? Or before that, when Chainmail first came out, or before that, when there wasn't even that much for fantasy gaming. Anyway, I don't have a satisfactory answer, but I'm interested in the question of who the target of each DMG is, if it's consistent, and it certainly makes sense to me as a writer that he would have a hard time putting himself back in the shoes of someone who hadn't done this before. I am very conscious as a blogger that I find it very difficult to speak to someone who doesn't have any experience with the game at all, right? And frankly, I don't try all that hard anymore, because
that's what I was going to say about him. I don't think he was trying that either.
Yeah.
I think the tone sometimes comes off like that, but that's not why his tone comes off like that. I think his tone sometimes comes off like that because he's trying to write in a very erudite, scholarly manner.
Yeah.
And that's how that comes off. It comes off as paternalistic a lot of times. And that feels like, oh, you're being paternalistic because you're trying to teach me something. But that's not really what it wasn't, I'm going to teach a new person something. It was, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that, I think he was aware that or maybe let me take that back. I retract that. I'm not sure he was aware that he did not do well speaking to new, because the thing is that he was mostly the only person speaking to players for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. As he was writing this specifically. So yeah. Anyway, well, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer either. So now we've gone way off on a tangent. So that's okay, because I think maybe our listeners will find the question interesting too, because I think I agree with you. I think the target audience for this book was a group of people that already have experience with the game and who have never run it but have experience playing the game, and are older adults, or people who want to learn, people who have already had experience and just want to learn how to do it like he does it, right? They already run their own games and they want to get insight into his mind. And so neither of those categories really is a new player category.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we shall end this thing.